What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to the show. So I want to talk a little bit about Representative Larson and what he thinks about the Social Security Fairness Act. So that's what we're going to focus on in this video. But first off, you guys can do me a favor. Please like the video. And if you're watching this video and you want to see more content like this, please consider subscribing to the channel. And also follow me on Blue Sky. I will have a link in the comment section. It'll be pinned at the very top. Just click on that link. It'll take you over to Blue Sky. Blue Sky is the alternative to Twitter. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about Representative Larson. Now, if you don't know who Representative Larson is, he has a proposal that he initially brought to the floor back in 2014, and it's called the Social Security 2100 Act. Now, the Social Security 2100 Act reforms Social Security, and it also has some other expansions in it. One of those expansions is eliminating weapon GPO. And so the Social Security 2100 Act does the same thing that the Social Security Fairness Act does, but it does much more. And so how does Representative Larson feel about the Social Security Fairness Act? Well, I'm going to show you a clip real quick, and then we'll come back and we'll talk a little bit about it.
Having worked on this issue for a number of years, to have a Social Security, and in this case, a portion of it, come to the floor, albeit under suspension and not through regular order, Mr. Speaker, is a step in the right direction. But the American people have got to be outraged by the fact that it's been over 50 years since Congress has adjusted Social Security. By that I mean enhanced Social Security for its recipients. Imagine that. And you think a few things have happened since Richard Nixon was President of the United States? Do you think a few things have happened, especially as we live in this post-COVID and now inflationary period? It impacts over 70 million of our fellow Americans. This provision that my colleague and good friend is talking about, WEP, is minuscule in terms of comparing that to individuals. And as well intended as I believe he is, this doesn't straighten out the problem. In our bill, Social Security 2100, we repeal WEP and GPO, and we pay for it. And that is the responsible thing that Congress has to do on behalf of the American people.
And so you see, Representative Larson, he commends them for bringing this to the floor, at least voting on this. However, he doesn't like the fact that you're not looking at some of the other issues that are out there. You have 5 million people that are currently receiving Social Security benefits and are living below the poverty line. We need to address that. We're just addressing the 2.5 million that fall in this category of weapon GPO, but we're not addressing some of the other issues when it comes to Social Security. And then what about reforming Social Security? What about paying for the elimination of weapon GPO? And Representative Larson saying, look, my proposal that I've been talking about for over 10 years now, it has pay-fors. However, the Social Security Fairness Act doesn't have pay-fors. As a matter of fact, it's going to cost about $196 billion over a 10-year span. And so Representative Larson saying, look, let's hold off. Let's hold on. We can pass the Social Security 2100 Act. We don't have to worry about the pay-fors because they're already incorporated. And what he wants to do is he wants to raise taxes on people making over $400,000. So that's what he wants to do. And when I say raise taxes, the payroll contribution. He wants to raise the cap. So right now, if you make over $168,600, you no longer have to contribute to FICA. And what he wants to do is he wants anyone making over $400,000 to now have to contribute to FICA again. And then now you'll bring in more revenue and you'll be able to extend Social Security out for another 50 years. That's his plan. And then a part of that plan is also you'll have the funding for elimination of weapon GPO. Because if you eliminate weapon GPO, what that's going to mean is that people, about 2.5 million people that it will impact right now, they will be getting larger checks. Because right now, the checks that they're getting, because they're receiving a pension, their checks are reduced. So the check coming from Social Security is reduced. And so what the elimination of weapon GPO will mean is it will mean that they'll be able to get a larger portion of Social Security benefits. And so that means that the trust fund will be depleted about 6 months sooner because because the Social Security Administration is now going to have to pay out more to about 2.5 million people. And so because you don't have a pay for, that is problematic about 9 to 10 years down the road. Okay, and that's what they're looking at right now. So why not? So Representative Larson saying, look, why not reform Social Security? We can reform it, we can have the pay-fors, we can add these other increases, we can help people who are living below the poverty line, we can eliminate taxes, something that President-elect Trump is talking about right now, eliminating taxes on people receiving Social Security benefits. Guess what? The Social Security 2100 Act has that in it as well. And so why not take that up and address that and move forward? And so I just wanted to talk a little bit about Representative Larson because I haven't talked about him in a while, and I've had some people ask me, well, what does he think about it? Or should we move with the Social Security 2100 Act instead of moving with the Social Security Fairness Act? Right now, Representative Larson is saying, yes, let's move with the Social Security 2100 Act. Now, the only problem with moving with the Social Security 2100 Act is they don't have the time. They don't have the time to move with it right now. They've already passed the Social Security Fairness Act in the House, and now it's over in the Senate, and hopefully they can pass it in the Senate. And so Representative Larson's plan, the Social Security 2100 Act, they don't have time to move on it right now. Now, what we could see next year, let's say they pass the Social Security Fairness Act in the Senate, it gets signed off by the president. Next year, we might see some movement on the Social Security 2100 Act. Why? Because just like I said, President-elect Trump wants to eliminate taxes on people receiving Social Security benefits without a pay-for. He has not mentioned any type of a pay-for, but you have the Social Security 2100 Act, Representative Larson's plan, that does have pay-fors. Now, President Trump might not agree with the pay-fors. Maybe they'll have to work that out and make some changes to the pay-fors. And what I mean by that is people making over $400,000 will have to pay into FICA. Wealthy people, do we really think that President Trump is going to tax wealthy people? I don't know. You let me know in the comments below. But we might have to see some changes to that proposal. And one of the changes that I think they can do, and be across the board, it'll be everybody that will be impacted by this, is just raising FICA, raising the payroll tax across the board for everyone who's currently working. And just raising it, it's not going to be that much, so people won't really feel it. We're talking about 1% or 2% of their paycheck. So right now they contribute 6.2%, raise it up to 8.2%. That will provide more revenue for Social Security to pay out benefits, and it will extend the program out for hopefully another 50 years if they can work it the right way. And so that's more realistic, in my opinion, than just saying, well, we're just going to make the wealthy pay more. We know Republicans don't like to make the wealthy pay more. As a matter of fact, they want tax cuts for the wealthy. And so that's probably not going to be what we see. But the reality is we could see some type of reform to Social Security happening in the next few years. And just a couple weeks ago, I was saying, you know what? I don't think we're going to see them take up Social Security at all. But President Trump did make a promise to waive taxes on people receiving Social Security benefits. That was a promise. He's going to have to at least address that. And if they address that, they're probably going to have to look at reforming Social Security at that point. Because you have to understand this. You have that clock running. You have that deadline. Let's just say the deadline is 9 years. If you pass the Social Security Fairness Act, that's going to move that deadline up 6 months. And then if you're talking about eliminating taxes on people receiving Social Security benefits, that, and I believe the Congressional Budget Office put this information out, saying that that will expedite the trust fund depletion by another 2 years. And so now we would be looking, instead of 9 years, we'd be looking at 6.5 years, 7 years. And so they're really going to have to start addressing that at that point if they want to eliminate taxes. You can't just eliminate taxes and not look at reforming Social Security. So if we see more movement to eliminate taxes on people receiving Social Security benefits, you're going to have some politicians out there having a real talk like, look, we need to talk about reforming Social Security. And reforming Social Security is probably going to mean raising the payroll tax. Raising the payroll tax, you're going to hear some politicians talk about we need to raise the full retirement age from 67 to 70. Now, that's not going to be enough to reform Social Security just by itself, so they're going to have to do some other things, and part of it is they're going to have to raise taxes. Ultimately, that's what's going to have to happen. And another thing we've been hearing a lot about are tariffs. And one of the things that President Trump says, well, you know what? We can do tax cuts. We can do the no taxes on Social Security, no taxes on tips, no taxes on first responders, and we'll pay for it by tariffs because we'll be taxing imports. And if we tax the imports, then we can use that money, that's revenue coming into the country, we can use that money to pay off these tax cuts, or to offset these tax cuts. So I don't know exactly how that would work. And ultimately, if you start raising tariffs, just understand this. If we're looking at tariffs, the people who pay for tariffs are me and you, the consumers. That's who pays for tariffs. Because that importer, let's say you're importing avocados. You're importing avocados from Mexico. And there's a tariff, there's a tax on those imports, and it's 25%. And I'm just giving you an example here. I'm not saying that this is what's going to happen. I know Trump has said that he wants to tax Mexico and Canada 25%. Now, it's a little unclear if that's even going to happen. You hear the president of Mexico was talking about Trump, talking about this whole situation, saying it wouldn't be a wise decision and all this. So we don't know where that's going to go when it comes to tariffs. But let's just use an example. Avocados coming to the U.S., 25% tariff. So if I'm an importer, let's say I want to sell avocados in California. And so what I do is I contact farmers in Mexico and say, ship me some avocados so I can sell them. They ship them to me. When I go to pick them up, that is when I pay that tax, that tariff. So I'm paying it, not the farmers in Mexico. They're not paying it. And so I pay that 25% more, and then guess what I do? If I want to sell those avocados, I'm going to hike that price up 25% more. And so I'll still make the same profit, but the consumer, that's who's going to have to pay. And so I want this to be clear in people's heads. So if we're talking about, okay, we want to bring in more revenue, that way we can pay for some of these tax cuts, just understand that you're going to be paying more, ultimately. And then when it comes to the tax cuts, you might benefit from the tax cuts, you might not benefit from the tax cuts, but you're going to be paying, somebody has to pay, it's going to be you. And so hopefully you will be able to get some type of tax breaks on this. But that is what they're talking about doing with the tariffs. Okay, so I didn't want to go off on a tangent on tariffs. I've done a video on tariffs already. I'll do some more videos talking a little bit about that. But the bottom line right now, when it comes to Representative Larson and how he feels about both proposals, of course, he favors the Social Security 2100 Act. And when we're looking at the Social Security Fairness Act, it's probably the best fix right now because they can probably pass this, whereas the Social Security 2100 Act would be a little harder to pass because there's more to it. There are a lot of different plans that are all in this Social Security 2100 proposal, and some politicians are going to like some of this stuff and not like some of the other, and they might not want to vote on it because of that. And so it's easier just to pass the Social Security Fairness Act. It does one thing and one thing only. Whereas if you bring in the Social Security 2100 Act, it's going to be a lot harder. And they don't have time. They don't have time to do it before the end of session. So I want to know what you guys think. Let me know in the comments below. If you like this video, please give me a thumbs up. Please subscribe for more. And I'll talk to you in the next one. Bye.